Alright, so when I cook my turkeys or my ham, I brine them. I mean, you guys know I brine them. I do enjoy brining them. It will yield a very juicy product, um, especially with turkeys. And today I'm going to show you the brine that I use for my turkeys, and you'll see that in action in a few days. But right now, this is what we're making. This is the brine. This is a half brine. And what I mean by half brine is it's only half of the solution, right? That is the core of the brine. So what I want to do, this is a 64-ounce jar. So when I add this to the meat, you want to add at a minimum, you want to fill this jar up again with cold water and add that to your meat at a minimum. Right? You can add more, that's fine, but you want to make sure that your meat is covered with the liquid. So sit back, screw your wig on tight, and enjoy this brine recipe. Hey, this is Shrashira. That's the best elevator music I ever heard. Alright, so for this brine, we're going to need 1 orange, cut into quarters. See that? Right there, see that? We're going to need 1 cup of sugar, white sugar. I mean, you could use, brown sugar if you like. It's just that white sugar makes it sweeter. 1 cup of salt, kosher salt. Do not use the iodized table salt. Don't do that. If you're going to do it right. Get you some kosher salt, the coarsely ground. And here we have some whole peppercorns, right? Black peppercorns. We have some rosemary, right? You can put as much or as little as you like. This right here is probably about 2 tablespoons. 2 tablespoons here also of thyme, right? Got your thyme. Then we got about 3/4 of a tablespoon of oregano. It's gonna be nice. And because I'm not using chicken broth in this, I have 8 of the small chicken bouillon cubes. Now, if you don't have the chicken bouillon cubes, by all means, use about 32 ounces of chicken broth. Okay, let's get these in the pot. All right, let's turn the heat on here. At medium high. Now the first thing we want to do is add our bouillon cubes. Now, like I said, if you're not using the cubes, you just add, the chicken broth at this point. All right, get those all spread around. And we're not going to add the other seasonings until this has dissolved. Okay, so it's been a couple minutes. Give this a stir, still breaking up the cubes. I know it would have been easier just to use chicken broth, but you know what? I got the bouillon cubes. I can make it as strong a mixture or as light a mixture as I want. Strong, weak, I want it strong, so I want to be able to control that. So that's why I'm using bouillon cubes. Don't hate. Don't make me jump out your screen. Alright, so the bouillon cubes, they've dissolved. So now we're going to add the sugar. 1 cup of sugar again. You can use brown sugar. It won't be quite as sweet as the white sugar, but it can still work. Add 1 cup of your coarse salt. Again, do not use that iodized stuff. And let's stir this up. And we're going to keep this going. And we won't add the other stuff until this dissolves. So it'll take a couple minutes for this to dissolve, alright? It's all stir up. Yeah, I can smell the sugar I can smell the salt, especially the salt. Okay, now let's add the other ingredients. Peppercorns in. Oregano in. Thyme in. Rosemary in. We're going to put the oranges in, but give them a little squeeze before you put them in. And then drop the whole thing in. So squeeze, drop it in. Squeeze, in. Squeeze, in. Juices from the plate in. And now we're going to stir these up. Nothing else is going to dissolve at this point, because you're just dealing with seasoning, the peppercorns and your rosemary, which is not going to dissolve, your oregano, which is not going to dissolve, your thyme, which is not going to dissolve, and obviously these oranges aren't going to dissolve. So you just want this to, when it comes to a boil, you want to turn it down on low and let it simmer for 15 minutes. All right, so you see it's boiling now. So you want to get all these flavors infused, you see. You want to infuse it. So now we're going to turn it down to medium-low. And we're going to let it percolate for 15 minutes. And then we'll turn the heat off. It's been 15 minutes. We turn the heat off. And we're going to let this steep. And we're going to let it steep, probably about a half hour so it can cool down. And then at that point we're going to add some ice to it to cool it down even faster. Alright, so I have my 64-ounce jar here, and we have our brine. And what I'm going to do now, I put ice into the jar, and we're going to pour our brine in, the oranges and all, to cool it down till it's time for us to use it. And this is a half mix. And what I mean by half mix is this is a half gallon of brine, right? And so what you want to do is you want to add an additional, at least a minimum, half gallon to the meat that you're brining. Right? Just pour this in. There we go. And then we're going to put our top on it. And we're going to put this in the refrigerator until it's time for us to use it. Just remember, this is a 64-ounce jar, which is half a gallon. And when we pour this onto our meat, we want to make sure that we fill this up again with cold water and add that to the meat as well, at a minimum.